Hello there and welcome to a special edition of the Thursday night show Extra. Joining me this week is Liverpool fan, ex-Marine and gold medalist from last year's Invictus Games, Andy Grant. Andy, great to have you on the show. You've got an incredible list of achievement. Tell us about yourself, your story and pretty much how your life changed.
Yeah, so my life got a bit crazy, if you like, when I was injured in Afghanistan. I joined the Marines at 17, served in Iraq and then Afghanistan. And as while I was in Afghanistan, I was blown up whilst on a routine foot patrol. My best mate jumped over the ditch and I was the second man ready to follow him. As he jumped on the other side of the ditch and unfortunately hit a tripwire which was attached to 2 trees and attached to 2 bombs. It was pitch black, so it was impossible to see. He's jumped, hit this wire, 2 bombs went off in between us, blown us both up. I suffered 27 injuries in total, from shrapnel to my face to my forearms, legs, all over really. I spent 2 weeks in a coma and then in and out of hospital for the next 2 years. My right leg just wasn't healing as I'd hoped, and I actually made the decision then to have my leg amputated just for a better quality of life really. And since having the amputation done, it's enabled me to have that quality of life that I was missing, and I've then been able to start pushing myself into various some crazy challenges and hopefully along the way try and inspire people and motivate people, and try and share my story and show people that life's what you make of it really.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you make that decision though?
Yeah, that was without doubt the hardest bit about it. Getting blown up was easy in the sense that I had it was nothing to do with it. It was a case of wrong place, wrong time. Whereas choosing to amputate your own leg it's such an unnatural thing to do, to decide to have to do it. I think sometimes, I don't know about you, but if I go to the hospital and the doctor tells me, I need to take this tablet or I need this, you just follow doctor's orders. Yeah. Whereas, one surgeon told me to amputate, another surgeon told me not to bother. One physio told me the best thing would be to amputate, one physio said to keep it. So that was a real tough decision to come to. But I think the overriding factor in everything was just the quality of life.
Mm-hmm.
I would never have been able to run again, never been able to play football. All the things I used to do and I used to enjoy doing as a young guy, I couldn't do anymore. So I think, although it was a hugely difficult decision, just that wanting to have my life back really, that was the thing that made me say, right, that's it. Amputation is the way forward.
Now, you were brought to a lot of people's attention in recent weeks because of a tattoo. I can see you've got tattoos on your arms, but that wasn't the one that made the headlines, was it? Yeah,
no, I like tattoos. I've got a few, but it was the one when I was 16. I got in a shop in Liverpool when I was 16, and it was of a liver bird, but you'll never walk alone. Again, a lot of my mates have got them, and most Liverpool fans have probably got them. This tattoo, loved it to bits. My first ever tattoo. Again, fast forward 6 years after the tattoo, after I got blown up, and the bomb had actually just missed the tattoo by inches, believe it or not. But when I come to have the leg amputated, the surgeon had warned me that the tattoo might be affected. I got put asleep for the operation, woke up 2 hours later, and then the surgeon came round and asked how I was feeling. I said, yeah, I'm good, thanks doc. How did the operation go? He said, well, I've got good news and I've got bad news. The good news is that the operation went really well. I'm really happy with it. So I said, okay, well, what can be bad then? He said, well, I know you're a big Liverpool fan and, your tattoo now looks a little bit different. I said, well, what do you mean? And he explained that for me to have a decent stump and be able to run and play football, do all the things that I want to do, he needed to pull the skin round from the back of the leg to create a decent stump. And in doing so, he'd cut off the word alone. So the tattoo now reads, you'll never walk. And the liver bird's a bit dodgy, kind of looking. He's feeling a bit sorry for himself. And like I say, yeah, the word alone's been cut off.
In the grand scheme of things, it's certainly not going to trouble you,
no.
But it's ironic.
It's ironic, and it makes for a great story as well. I've had a few people asking me if I'm going to get it covered up and stuff, and I don't want to get it covered up. It's a funny story, and it makes people laugh as well. Some people don't know how to take it sometimes, whether they think it's okay to laugh or not. But yeah, it's a funny story, and thankfully looking back now, it is ironic because I've been able to to run after it and lead a normal life again. But it's just you couldn't write it really, just one of them things. Yeah,
long list of achievements throughout your life over the past few years as well. How important has your family support been? I know you've got kids as well.
Yeah, so initially, my dad was a fireman. He's a fireman in Liverpool, and the fire brigade were great with him. He gave him a lot of time off, and he basically lived at my bedside for 3-4 months. 2 young sisters always ferrying their way to hospital, and all my mates from school, you know, and making the trip from Liverpool to Birmingham all the time to see me. So that initial support was a massive help. And then later on through my recovery, you know, my partner then and kids have came along, and they've been a huge support for me. And again, just friends and people I've come into contact with. It's been invaluable really, because it's like everything really in life. You're never on your own. It's any success and failure is down to a team. And I'd like to think that my recovery's been a success, and it's only down to, again, them friends and family, the doctors and nurses, the people who supported, you know, injured soldiers. And I definitely wouldn't be sitting where I am now if it wasn't for all that support, really.
Continued success as well, as we can see the medals that you've brought in to show us. Tell us about the Invictus Games.
Yeah, the Invictus Games, I think quite early on, sport has played a huge part in my recovery, because in the military, sport's really important, and when you're injured, it doesn't become any less important. You know, it's a great tool for getting guys who've been injured back up on their feet again and challenging themselves again. So this idea of the Invictus Games came about through Prince Harry, who had seen the Americans put on a similar event called the Warrior Games, and that was just for injured servicemen wanting to get back to some level of fitness. So Prince Harry kind of stole the idea off the Americans and called it the Invictus Games. He invited 12 nations to the UK and to compete in a series of events, whether it's be on the track, in the swimming pool, wheelchair rugby, a whole host of events, and got injured guys from across the world to compete against each other. And it was a really humbling experience for a number of reasons, to see the amount of support that the British public came out and showed. You know, even now around Liverpool, you know, people come up and say, oh, you know, I remember you from the Invictus Games, yeah. Which is amazing to think that the support's gone that far. And for me, you know, to be able to run 400 metres and win a gold, knowing that 3 years beforehand I couldn't even walk, was such an achievement for me. And again, for me to see my injured friends, yeah. Who, you know, I've seen, you know, just, you know, be discharged from hospital, sitting there in a wheelchair, thinking that their life has ended. And then again, a couple of years later, you know, I've got a friend who's a triple amputee. He's only got one arm, and he can swim, you know, 50 metres faster than me. You think, how can you swim with one arm? Yeah. And the whole Invictus Games was all about inspiring people and showing that, you know, anything is possible with the right mindset. Incredible.
Rio, is that the
yeah, well, like I say, I had an ambition, my own personal goal, to become the fastest single-leg amputee over 10k. I can run 10k in 40 minutes, and the world record's 38. So that was my goal. But then I took part at the Invictus Games and ran the 400 metres in quite a fast time. And then people said to me, you know, forget about that 10k, why don't you run 400 metres, and if you do that, you've got a chance of getting to Rio. So since the Invictus Games, my training's then now tweaked a little bit, and I've gone from 10k to trying to run a bit quicker over 400 metres. So it's a bit of a long shot, as it's obviously Rio's only this year, next year. So it is a bit of a long shot, but you know, hopefully I've proved to myself that anything is possible. So hopefully with the right training and the right dedication, then Rio could be a potential, yeah.
Let's hope so. I wish you all the very best with it. You say anything is possible. Is that why you make the decision to share your story with other people and motivate them?
Yeah, I think you know, obviously not everyone's been blown up in Afghanistan and lost a leg, but it's no different to the challenges we all face in life, whether that's in sport, in football, in business, or our own personal lives. You know, we've all got our own troubles and challenges, and I think, you know, with my story, if I can hopefully inspire anyone or motivate anyone, then, you know, I feel like I'm doing a good job. And the analogy I like to use is life is 10% the situation you find yourself in, 90% what you do about it. So, you know, ultimately the ball is always in your court. You know, life is down to you and what you make of it. There's no point making excuses and thinking what if and what, you know, it's down to you and for you to make the most of it. And hopefully if I can inspire people along the way, then that's just an added bonus for me, really.
Well, you certainly can. How do you find time to follow Liverpool?
Yeah, no, it's been difficult this season. I'm actually away at the weekend, so I won't even get to see the game at the weekend. But last season, I was at most of the games last season. I think the Man City game last season, the 3-2 Coutinho, was probably my favourite game last season. So so it's a good thing that work's going really well and I'm really busy. Obviously the downside is I'm missing a lot of the performances, especially towards the end of the season, which have been obviously improving. But I'm sure I'm sure hopefully that if we continue like this, I'll have to make time to make sure I'm at Wembley. If we get to the final, I'll definitely be booking that day off.
Yeah, I'm sure you will. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you in our studios.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
Wish you all the very best with everything in the near future. Certainly be looking out for you in Rio as well.
That's great. Thanks very much.